Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you're watching Shazam, the Political Vigilante. Boom! What is going on, citizens of Gotham? What is going on? You're the best, smartest crowd on the internet. This is the People's Channel. So I'm always like this debt ceiling thing. Like, what is this really about? There's no like, oh, the debt ceiling. Oh, it's every couple of years they do this debt ceiling charade. And I'm like, what is it? What is this really about? Because this is a country that just can print. They literally printed $5 or $6 trillion during COVID. I mean, just gave it to Wall Street, do whatever you want. 100 new billionaires were created. But the debt ceiling and it's this stupid thing to show these, to get Americans to pick a side with these two utterly corrupt, awful parties. So I don't go to the mainstream media for this because the mainstream media is going to just feed me this red versus blue narrative that keeps Americans fighting with each other, and rather than Americans uniting like they're doing in France. I mean, the whole country of France just shut down because they were asked to work an extra 2 years. They raised the retirement age from 62 to 64. If they did that in America, everyone would just go, no one would do anything. And France, they shut the whole country down. And we're treated 10 times worse in this country, and we won't do that. So what is the debt ceiling really about? I went to the World Socialist website, wsws.org. Great website. Check it out. And they make some great points in this article that we're going to go through. Manufactured crisis over U.S. debt ceiling sets change for bipartisan assault on Social Security and Medicare. There you go. That's the secret word. Those two words be very afraid of. Bipartisan support. Anytime they agree on something, it's to screw us over. Just always know that. Always know that. Nobody ever, how are we going to afford it? They want to cut social programs. What also gets bipartisan support? Oh, military budget increases every year. Every year the war budget has been going up since 9/11. Since 2001, the military budget has gotten increased, and it has gotten overwhelming bipartisan support. There's no government shutdown over, if the Democrats or even just the progressive caucus within the Democratic Party actually was worth a nickel, they would be shutting down the government for Medicare for all, and they would get overwhelming support from the American people. But they're not going to do that because they're paid not to. So now this article came out May 24th, so last week. Now they've reached some kind of tentative agreement, which we're all going to get screwed. And this is going to show you why. This article is going to show you why. We're now 1 week from the June 1st, which is actually in 2 days, when the U.S. will purportedly default on its debt obligations, triggering a catastrophe. Oh, no. They better come up with a solution. Behind the mutual recriminations between the two capitalist parties at the stage managed crisis negotiations, that's great wording, there's a basic agreement. All of the social gains made by the working class in the course of more than a century of struggle must be wiped out to pay for the drive by the American ruling class to remove, by force of arms, Russia and China as obstacles to its U.S. hegemony, even if it means triggering a nuclear war. Could not have said it better myself. I just did another segment on the U.S. spy plane getting, buzzed by a Chinese fighter jet. What it's all about. China's not a military threat to us. They're an economic threat. I've talked about the BRICS countries, right? Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa have all united economically. They're not using the dollar. I've told you how Russia and China have stopped using the petro-dollar back as far as, I think, 2019. That's what this is about. So the United States empire has to crush Russia and China. That's what the war in Ukraine is about. It's not about protecting our freedoms and this and that. It's about the oil industry, the military industrial complex, and the central banks. Because if the U.S. is no longer the world's reserve currency, which it's not going to be anymore, we got no more power. The social cuts implemented by an eventual debt limit budget deal will only be a down payment. They will set the stage for an assault on the core entitlement programs, Medicare and Social Security, extracted from the ruling class in the class battles of the 30s and the 1960s. I mean, there's a famous saying about FDR, he just saved capitalism, right? Here's a picture of these two parasites. So this is as of a week ago, backing Biden's proposal for a 2-year spending freeze and a $1 trillion in cuts over the next decade. No one in the mainstream media is talking about the fact that the military gets endless money and all of our social programs are going to get cut. The military industrial complex needs to be the number one target of all of us. Anytime someone says we don't have the money for whatever, schools, roads, public transportation, Medicare, homeless programs, say, why does the military get everything? So we need to stoke up these wars. We needed to get Russia to invade Ukraine so we could go, oh, we need more war money because Russia's on the loose. They're crazy. Mr. McCarthy keeps claiming the nation has a spending problem, the Post wrote, but the party leaves out is the spending problem driven largely by the fact that Social Security, Medicare, and healthcare costs are shooting up. And Mr. McCarthy, Republican parasite that he is, and his Democratic parasite counterparts, McCarthy's not going, we're spending too much money on war. Why are we giving $120 billion to Ukraine when Americans are hungry? He's not saying that because he's a weasel, just like the Democrats. He's a weasel. He's a soulless weasel with a little weasel rat nose. And he has a conversation with the little weasel Joe Biden. They have the little weasel conversations while the American people starve to death. Medicare will run out of money in 2028. Social Security will run out of money in 2034 until we tackle the mandatory spending and get a handle on our long-term sustainability of our debt and deficit. We're just playing around the margins. Oh. Biden has made a large down payment on the new austerity drive with his ending of the national COVID emergency, which has not only increased the risk of infection and death from the ongoing pandemic, but authorized state governments to review their Medicaid rolls in order to terminate people's benefits. So in the middle of a once-in-a-100-year pandemic, we couldn't even get free health care. Now they're going to get rid of the Medicaid on the state level. The Kaiser Family Foundation estimates that between 5.3 and 14.2 million people will lose Medicaid coverage just through that process alone. And the American people will still not protest in the streets like the French. Corporate tax revenues have fallen dramatically even as profit rise. Listen, look at this number. Look at this chart. The orange number is tax receipts. That's the amount of money the corporations have been paying in taxes. And then look at their profits. The profits have been pretty steady. They've even gone up a little bit, but the amount of money they paid in taxes has gone down. The real drop here, this was the Trump tax break right here. This is in late 2017. That was the Trump one. So he really made America great again by sticking it to the working class people, and the Democrats went along with it. Oh, from increased social spending driving the rise of the national debt, it remains sharply down when adjusted for inflation and population growth from the levels preceding the Bipartisan Budget Control Act of 2011. Oh, bipartisan control, Jesus. That bill, which followed the financial collapse of 2008, the multi-trillion-dollar bailout of Wall Street by both Bush and Obama, and still 6 million foreclosures happened. So Wall Street got taken care of, but Americans who through no fault of their own got screwed over by the corrupt banking system, they lost their homes. They lost their retirement. They lost intergenerational wealth. They couldn't leave that home to their kids. I lost my home. That was going to be my retirement. It's gone. That's why I'm a big Bitcoin proponent. This country's such a rat-faced diarrhea barn. Military and war spending. The United States spent between $4 and $6 trillion on the 20-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan. according to the Harvard analysis. Yes, last year alone, the Biden administration allocated $113 billion to Ukraine. And this year proposed a record $1 trillion Pentagon budget. That's what's going to be approved by the end of 2023 is $1 trillion for the fucking Pentagon. And I did a video too of that, an additional $375 million that's going to Kiev. Oh, the Bush administration enacted 2 rounds of tax cuts, overwhelmingly benefiting the wealthy. The Obama administration made them permanent in 2012. That has cost $4 trillion over 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. The Trump tax cut of December 17 handed over $2 trillion to the corporate elite, including the reduction of the official corporate tax rate of 20 to 21%. As Biden noted in his press conference last Sunday from Hiroshima, 55 corporations that made $400 billion last year paid $0 in taxes. And U.S. billionaires pay an average tax rate of 8%. According to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, corporate profits rose by 20% between 2014 and 2020, while corporate tax receipts fell by more than 60%. That's a nice swing. God. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, corporate tax revenue as share at 1% was lower than every other member country except Latvia. Look at this. Unreal. Here's the United States down here. Norway, Luxembourg, New Zealand, all these countries have pretty good social services. The Bush and Obama administration enacted $2 trillion in emergency measures following the collapse of 2008. In addition, the Federal Reserve funneled trillions more to Wall Street through its program of quantitative easing. They quantitatively eased all of our social programs into the pockets of Wall Street. So you and I get screwed over while the Wall Street guys get bumps. Nice. Meanwhile, tens of millions of workers lost their homes and life savings as a result of the criminal practices of the bankers. I was one of them. The Trump administration, with the support of the Democrats in Congress, allocated $3.4 trillion in the March 2020 CARES Act. Remember that? Democrats voted for it. Oh, it was evil Trump, but the Democrats signed off on it. Warmongering, greed, and criminality have impelled the policies pursued by the parasitic American ruling elite and driven up the national debt. Could not have said it better myself, ladies and gentlemen. The debt ceiling. They always find a boogeyman to get bipartisan support to screw us all over. It's the same old playbook. And no one at CNN or Fox or MSNBC or ABC is going to talk about it. You got to come here. You got to come here. I'm the only one that's going to break it down for you. So thanks for watching the show, everybody. Support what we do because we've been demonetized now. Since February 1st, 2021, we've been demonetized. And even with that, I don't go chasing right-wing clicks because I'm a parasite and an alcoholic and a sellout. I'm a man. Go to GrahamElwood.com, folks, for tour dates and vegan smoothie recipes, and join our mailing list because you're the best and smartest fans in the world. You don't need a YouTuber to tell you what to do. You come here for information and maybe you get it, maybe you don't, maybe you agree with some, maybe you don't. But you're a critical thinker. That's why you watch this show. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. Boom. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/GrahamElwood or rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to GrahamElwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.